Doris, thank you for making the trip from Singapore to Barcelona to be on stage with us. So firstly, I know of the Como brand, but I'm not sure that many people in the audience, they do.
Yeah.
Tell us why the name Como first.
Well, to start with, just to say I'm really happy to be here. It took Hoon 3 years to get me to come here. Yes, Como is not about Como Lake or Lake Como. It actually stands for Christina Ong and Melissa Ong, the name of our two founders. And that's why it's always in caps, and that's why they are so vested in the business, because they say that their names are on it. Christina Ong is the mother, and she's actually started way before. Hospitality in Como is 33 years, but Como actually started in fashion, right? And that was 53 years as well. So with that, her daughter comes in to bring the younger elements, and she brings in sports tourism and a lot of other exciting things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
That's Como.
So really interesting mother-daughter partnership, and then going into intergenerational longevity of the brand, right? As it's gone from retail to food to
wellness,
hotels and all of that.
Yeah.
So the first hotel, Como, just to give the people an idea of Como, is that the first one was really in Hulkin, London, right? And then now you have like 18 properties in very diverse destinations. You've got the Dolomites, you've got Tuscany, Burgundy, Bali, Phuket, Bhutan, Maldives, and then finally 2 years ago, Singapore.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you're spreading. Are you looking at other destinations within Europe right now?
Yes, we're actually coming into Europe in a big way, but actually more to continue the storytelling, because Como destinations are very diverse and very unusual, very unique. We go into areas that, frankly speaking, real hospitality companies and big brands would never go, because it's very, very small. Footprints are very small. We bring you into remote villages, but more for a greater cause. Like, for instance, our first property in outside of London is actually Tuscany, where we bought into this huge estate that has, we make our own wines, we make our own olive oil, sunflower oil, and also truffle hunting, because the grounds are, we have truffle all year round. So we introduced truffle hunting to our guests. And from there, then we went on to the Dolomites. So it's Como Alpina Dolomites. And, every time when you look at the Dolomites, you look at this picture of the mountains, right? But a lot of the times when you arrive at the resort, that's not what you see. But for us, that's exactly what you see when you open up your window. It's a ski-in, ski-out resort. And not only that, it's all year round, because to reach the top, you have to circle past 5 beautiful villages. That traditions are still hundreds of years old. So bringing all these interesting Como stories to our guests. So from there, we then went into Montrachet in Burgundy. And as you know, in Burgundy, in Montrachet, it boasts of the world's most expensive white wines. But yet, when you come into this little village, you would never have known, because it's very sedate, it's very quiet, too quiet, to really
too
understand.
Quiet for whom?
But only people who knows wine.
So you go to areas that really the global brands would not go, or the companies that are driven by maybe sort of real estate investment metrics. So you really go deep into the regions and local communities, and that seems to be where the trend of luxury travel is going. When I speak to a lot of luxury brands now, they're saying, that people are going deeper, and then longer tail, more remote, and all that, right? So that's where you're following. So let's talk about the luxury travel market, which is valued at 2.26 trillion in 2024 and projected to grow to almost double, 4.24 trillion by 2034. And Doris has prepared some data points here. So let's go through them. So how big is this luxury hospitality market? Pick us, tell us the highlights here.
So actually, surprisingly, if you look at this slide, you know that 35% of the luxury market actually comprises of aspiring luxury, which is between $100,000 to $1 million. So many people ignore this, and now, people are talking about ultra-high net worth, But actually, this is the most interesting, because these are the people, because it's new-founded wealth, and they really wanted to go into more of the unique and the extremes. And this is where it's a potential for brands to really tap on and be able to satisfy them so that you can buy their loyalty. So I think this is something that a lot of people don't realize. And also, the second point is these people has the potential to migrate into higher tiers. So very soon, give them a couple more years, they will go into the ultra high net worth. Right. Then they become your second summit seekers.
They go up the food chain. So aspiring luxury, the market to watch. Okay.
Yes.
And then the second slide showing that Asia is really the epicenter of luxury lodging. I mean, like the small luxury development going on in Asia than anywhere else.
Right. And this actually is a slide from STR that was examining the global luxury market. And they found that actually out of which 41% of the pipeline for luxury hotels is actually in Asia. And out of that, 43% comes from China. So what does that tell you? Right. So it is actually also, but to be sure, all these, when you talk about these kind of developments, you're really looking at the big brands, the chains, the franchises, because it also shows that a lot of these stakeholders are more comfortable with these big brands because they think that's what luxury dictates, right? And so that's where it's going. But for smaller players like us, I think it gives us a lot more potential to really explore the real destination.
Yeah, and then let's look at also the new luxury travelers that are coming, which is the Chinese and UAE travelers. I think we're seeing definitely those are the growth markets, right? Yeah. You mentioned China and all that. And you say they value loyalty programs and branding.
Yes, this is very interesting because as you can see, right, the top three is always China, UAE, and US. And surprisingly, you can see that the China and UAE, actually they make up about at least 80% of, not making up 80%, but 80% of this market actually says that they value loyalty above hotel brands. So that's very interesting. Why? Because you see that when people feel that they're in what you call obvious luxury, you want to be recognized. You want to be rewarded. You want to be seen as, I've arrived. But however, interestingly enough, that segment of people actually are not the ones looking to redeem a free stay. No, they want better service. They want to be recognized for who they are. And they even would like to have access to higher tier management to show that you really know me and you know who I am.
Yeah, that's why it's important that the GM must be there to welcome them always, right? So let's look at motivations. That's an important, driver of this market. So, and how that is changing. What trends are you seeing in customer behavior? What you talked about.
This is very interesting because, as you can see, right, if you look at the exploration of places and all that, yes, I mean, the luxury travelers do want novelty because so that there's a talking point and it has bragging rights. But however, a lot of them also likes to do the ordinary things that the mass traveler would like to do, except that with a lot more personalization and specification. So therefore comes in we hear a lot of interesting apps and platforms that are introducing personalization to an even higher level because that's really what's driving this.
Yeah, exclusive access to something, right?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
All right, so let's look at the specialty trips too that luxury travelers are also taking.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was saying, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have got, if you see the blue line, right? I mean, the higher, it has this real differentiation when you look into sailing, safari, skiing, winter trips. And funny enough, when I was in the Dolomites, I saw Chinese, I saw the Thais, I saw the Filipinos. And these are people that in their country, but Chinese in their country, they have ski resorts, So they really follow the trends and they want to do things that, they want to discover these sort of places that are outside of their normal domain, right? So yes, these are the what you call exploration trips.
And they're very sophisticated and very tech savvy. So I got to share a story. I was in London. And I had two London friends who said, Siew, we're going to take you to a place that's hyper-local in this neighborhood, and, it's going to be so super local, right? So I go into the restaurant, and then they come in and they say, oh my gosh, there are all these Asians here, And then they said, they were so embarrassed, and say, why are they taking me to a restaurant that's full of Asians, like Filipinos and Chinese? And really what's happened is that, the Chinese there were all found this place on Xiaohongshu, Little Red Book. And they were all there, really. And so my friends in London were so embarrassed, and they say, oh, this is no longer hyper-local. But to me, that's a dilemma, okay? That's the quandary of social media, and then you say aspirational, right? And then, tourism really crowding and taking out the local feel. But we won't get into that topic right now. But anyway, that's interesting. Okay, so I want to talk about also, like coming back to Christina Ong and Melissa Ong, right? So in the greatest transfer of intergenerational wealth is actually happening right now. Right? It's apparently $73 trillion of collective wealth being passed from one generation to the next. So this is an interesting data point that you did, right? So this is the next generation of travel. How is this going to change the complexion of the luxury market?
A lot of people thought that, of course, baby boomers are, the top segment of people that are traveling. But however, a lot of people don't realize that 40% of the luxury travel today are between the ages of 40 to 60. And this is very important because, they are, I call them the second summit seekers, because they've been there, done that, and they want to look at what else, what is in for me now. It's about me and not about my family, my children, and so on and so forth. So and these are the people that, we really, I take pleasure in planning for these people because that they are more, they really appreciate what you have put together, rather than those that just want to tick off what's on their list, right? So yeah, I think it's great.
I wish I had parents that would transfer $73 trillion to me, right? But apparently there is a new segment of travelers that are emerging called ski, which is spend kids' inheritance. So that's a new segment, right? Let's spend the kids' inheritance.
Yes.
Which is happening. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So let's talk about now experiences, right? Because you see, hospitality, everything is blurring. The lines are blurring, right? So OTAs, transaction wants to get into inspiration. Hospitality now becoming experience creators. So. Como, you started space camps for kids. I interviewed the astronauts and tell us what was the purpose, these space camps, and really, is it revenue driven? How much money did you make from this?
This is again something that I really appreciate where I am today, because if back in my old life, I wanted to do something that is so out of the box, I would never be able to do it, because you're right. They always ask about ROI. What is it in for, right? So when I started this, the reason is because we were given an opportunity to help out, to sponsor actually the 50th anniversary of Apollo 16. And I think space is here now today. People are already talking, you've got agents that are certified, right, to sell space travel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's high time that we engage the space community, right? And I, especially at that time, I was very curious in the educational part. I'm thinking, why did people spend so much money on space travel when we had so much poverty still on Earth, right? And that's where I learned, and I was really enlightened that if not for space exploration, we won't have our mobile phones. We won't understand what is sustainability, and we won't be powering up all these things to ensure that we live better. It's all about space exploration. And that's when I thought it would be so wonderful to inspire children and create this experience so that I can have family bonding. Because remember, when you bring your kid out, sometimes I remember bringing my little boy, 5-year-old, to England, to Cotswold. All he remembers was, I enjoyed playing with Fern. Fern was this farm dog that we had when we were staying in the farm.
Oh, I thought you meant the Fern.
No, Fern, the dog, because he plays football. Fern is very smart. He's trained to play football, this little English corgi. So I was thinking, kids are so, it's this depth of experience and memory, and I thought that it can be so inspiring because you rarely even get to meet a pilot, let alone an astronaut.
An astronaut, yeah.
Right? Absolutely. So because of that, and also I always think that in life you have to gift. You have to give before you receive. And because of us sponsoring the event, you know, I mean, they were so kind. They did a pro bono for me because I would never be able to afford them. So we flew them over to our resorts, and we have been hosting the space camp for 3 years. And I want to tell you one fun fact. We became so famous that I got a letter from the Arizona Space Station. And they said that, do you know, Space Camp has been patented by us, and you're not allowed to use this. But I'm doing my Space Camp in Maldives, which their patent doesn't hold rights. And guess what? I have got a whole space community rooting for Como.
Well, you know that you have gotten attention when you get attention from the lawyers, as we know. Okay, so the next journey, I mean, like, okay, space, fantastic, space travel is here. You've also created Como Journey into the Arctic, which I feel like, you know, you've chartered this Norwegian weather ship and for private charters, and they've been selling really well, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't believe it. In 4 months, we were a bit worried. Again, something that I took on. Because why? Because I feel that how can we continue to provide real experience to our guests? And I want to also show that it's not just about a hotel, you know, because the brand has to encompass a lot more. And therefore, I feel that if we take on this ship, we can commoditize some of the events. And so therefore, we chartered this Norwegian weather ship for only 12 explorers, and we put in some of the most lauded explorers on it as well for our guests. And so on top of that, we bring in a body worker so that you have Como Shambhala treatments throughout. And we also brought in a very good chef.
So I can see you're very passionate talking about all these experiences, but I want you to get as passionate about talking about distribution as well now. So working with OTAs, like how much of your business now comes direct through brand.com versus OTA versus the luxury travel network?
It's about 35%, but also we have a very strong repeat percentage, which is great. So we get, like, at some of our hotels, as high as 50% repeat business. You know, so that's why I say, because when you build experiences...
So loyalty is absolutely key.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
So let's talk social. How do you work with influencers? I'd love to be an influencer for Como.
Actually, that brings me back to, you remember, I actually... You'll be very surprised all the things I do, right? So I recently launched a cookbook, okay? And you'll be wondering why. Well, Mrs. Ong actually created the first cookbook 9 years ago with all the chefs that she has collaborated with, all the Michelin star chefs, but it was too complicated. So last year, she created this called Como Simple Cookbook. But it is not just about the cookbook. It is also to tell the stories of our hotels, bringing in the cuisine that you find available in all over the hotels. So when I do that, coming back to social, so what we did was we actually engaged people who are food lovers, you know, people who write about food, getting them together. And in that journey, because I actually went from London, Munich, Jakarta, and then also Shanghai and Beijing when I did the launches. And I tell you, I found that a lot of these influencers, that you call influencers, actually have all become travel designers. Yep. They are actually travel agents today, but specialized travel agents. So therefore, all the lines are blurred, and these are the best influencers to work with, because they understand.
It's the evolving food chain. Okay,
that's right.
So we're going to go rapid fire. One question, one word answer. What's one trend you think Gen Alpha will bring to hospitality that we haven't seen yet?
Hyper-interactive gaming experiences that's brought into hospitality.
Okay.
Because
AI concierge or human butler?
Oh, of course, a human butler. I've got a very good reason for this. Because you know what, as we go towards, you know, all these tech-enabled hospitality, it's going to be more and more common. And then why? Because they're done to be more resourceful, cut costs, right? Because labor is so painful, right? And labor-intensive stuff are getting more and more expensive. So therefore, luxury became more human, right? So when you see a human being, you know that, oh, they're investing in real people. So that's luxury.
I'll be so happy to see a human. Please join me in thanking Doris, the most human Chief Commercial Officer I know. Thank you.